Arsenal return to the Emirates Stadium today for a 5:30 match against Leeds United in the Premier League. The Gunners have not lost to Leeds in over a decade, and I don't expect that to happen right now. So, and see what we need to look out for. Welcome back to All About Arsenal. And basically today we're going to talk about Arsenal's preview with Leeds United. And there's no better place to start than with some Arsenal news. Topping the list is the signing of Iberici Eze. We all know how I've been buzzing from that for quite a while. And finally decided to move to Arsenal. Just when we thought he was about to go to Tottenham, he swept the switch on them and made that awesome move to join us. And of course, Arsenal fans are very elated about that. So what's key here is to know, I don't think he might be able to play today. The rule was that Arsenal was supposed to submit his documentation to the FA probably before 12 o'clock yesterday. But what I think for sure is that he's going to probably appear at the Emirates, wave to the fans and something like that. Then we would expect to see him when Arsenal take on Liverpool in Anfield next week. That's going to be a very huge match, but obviously these are the kind of games we look forward to in the Premier League, and to be an awesome one. So to team news, Arteta went to the press and spoke about a couple of challenges in the team, especially with injuries. This recording, we don't even know when Kai Havertz is coming back. There's no clear indication of how long he's going to be out for. But yesterday, when I watched the Gunnar talk, that's Tom Canton, he spoke about an article in Bild, the German newspaper, saying that Kai Havertz has some cartilage issues on his knee and some loose bodies. And obviously the Arsenal doctors are trying to see what they can do to ensure he doesn't go under the knife. But if Havertz goes under the knife, then he might be out for a couple of months, probably 3 to 4 months or something. And it's not where we desire to be. But, injuries are just part of the game, I guess. Sometimes no one plans for this kind of thing. But so with Havertz potentially, it clearly means that Gyökeres is the only one that's going to be in center forward for us. We can use Leandro Trossard or Mikel Merino, even though I don't want that. When push comes to shove, I don't expect Gyökeres to play every game and every minute. He probably start, then at some point get subbed for the likes of Trossard or Merino if you want to keep him fresh. I'm guessing like this game against Leeds now, if he ends up scoring like a whole lot of goals, it would be nice to, ovation when he's substituted for the likes of Trossard, who just signed a new contract with the club. Elsewhere, he's also injured. He has not physically played anything for us yet. Of course, we got to see him a bit during the preseason. Very good header against Villarreal. But from all indications and what we've learned so far, Nogard is going to be out for a while. Probably not too long. Maybe just a knock. But he's certainly not going to be available for select. Ben White is also he's someone that has really, really struggled with injuries in recent times. And it's very, very disheartening to see that. But it's what it is, I guess. So we have to be mindful of the fact that we will not have the likes of Ben White, we won't have the likes of Nogard. And of course, our long-term absentee, Gabriel Jesus, who is still recuperating from his long knee injury. But I guess the team is still strong enough. At least one good thing that we've seen this season is that Arteta has given us, or better, and Arteta basically worked together to give us a squad that has the right amount of depth to cope with issues like this. With someone like Ben White being out, we have a Julian Timber, who also has his own injury challenges. He's someone that, since he came back from that ACL injury, he has not fully fit. He tries his best, but where even when we were about to play PSG, he was suffering in serious pain and eventually had to go for surgery as soon as the campaign finished. But he came on as a sub against Manchester United, so I'm guessing he'll come from the start. And even if we don't want to use Timber, we also have a Christian Mosquera who is itching to, get his hands in competitive football for his new club. While he was at Valencia, he played most of his games as a centre back, but as we're already aware, he's also playing as a right back as well. And if you want to go to the youth academy, we have the likes of Josh Nichols, who can also step in when required. These young lads have shown that they have what it takes, and even during the preseason, you could see the confidence that was instilled on them by the gaffer to give them much valuable game time, which of course will allow them to grow. For Jesus, we have not had him since January, and we're not expecting him till probably the end of the year. It was a very terrible ACL injury he suffered when we played against Manchester United and lost on penalties that day. But obviously, Arsenal have done well to get Victor Gyökeres, who's going to be our primary striker, to lead us to the Premier League title. I still hopeful on that, and we'll just see how that pans out. So to our opponents, Leeds United, the main injury for them is their captain, Ifan Ampadu. Leeds will be buzzing from actually winning their first game in their return to the Premier League. The last time they were in the Premier League was when Marcelo Bielsa was still their manager, and he had this maverick style of play that saw them, attack and never try to defend. But eventually he got undone, he got sacked, and they stayed in the championship for quite a while. When there are different times to return, they always made playoff places, but from one team to another, they always had some level of heartbreak. But last season under Daniel Fark, they finally won the championship and came back up, with Joel Pirou as their key man. He scored 19 goals for them in the championship. Although his first game against Everton, he wasn't as impressive as I expected. But his replacement, Lucas Mecha, actually scored a penalty, which Pirou would have actually scored if he played, But they have actually done well to invest. Daniel Fark made it clear that in as much as he liked Pirou, he didn't want him to be his only centre forward going into the new season. So they have gone well to get Dominic Calvert-Lewin from Everton. He was released by the Toffees this season, at the tail end of last season, actually. Then they also went to AC Milan to buy Noah Okafor. And that's just fascinating when I think about it. A player leaving AC Milan, the 7-time European champions, to join Leeds United in the Premier League. It just goes to show the kind of pull that the Premier League has right now. So Leeds will have Ampadu sideline. In Gruev, they have a good DM that can do the business. He had a very combative game against Everton, and now they expect him. They also have the likes of Stack and Ao Tanaka, who are very combative midfielders, and I would expect the game to have the progress. So to predicted lineups, of course, at this point in time, teams will pretty much ride themselves unless some injury problems come and make things a whole lot more difficult. But I would expect to see David Raya to remain in goal. Kepa Arrizabalaga was signed as our cup keeper. I'm sure he might want to play a couple of games in the Premier League, but that might be difficult. As long as Raya is fit, he remains our undisputed number one. In defense, it's interesting to see the battle between Ricardo Calafiori and Miles Lewis Kelly. But Calafiori scored the only goal last season. Sorry, Calafiori scored the only goal last week against Manchester United, and I don't think Lewis Kelly will start ahead of him. Lewis Kelly will still get games this season, obviously. I would have liked him to play this game, but at the same time, I think I want Calafiori to build on the great performance from last week. And Calafiori is someone that's actually been struggling with injuries as well. So the more games he can get to maintain fitness, the better for him. In right back, I would expect him to start with Ben White being a doubt. I don't. He might play the game. I think he might be rested for the game. That's my gut feel about that. Then in centre back, of course, we'll see the regular pairing of Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba. Kivio and provided maybe a Carabao Cup or FA Cup or maybe a Deroba Champions League game. But Gabriel and Saliba have been the most dominant centre back pairing in the Premier League for the past couple of seasons, with the last 2 seasons them being part of the team that won the Golden Glove. So I'd expect them to start. With Nogard still injured, Zubimendi obviously will be deducted the number 6 for the game. And we'll see the likes of Declan Rice and Matthew Odegaard play ahead of him. Zubimendi can play as a single pivot, allowing them to harness their attacking depth, talent and all that. So it's nice to see how that pans out. In attack, see Victor Gyökeres lead the line with Bukayo Saka on the left and Martinelli on the right. But we're all grateful to know that from next week, Martinelli will go back to the bench. We've really persisted with him, and honestly, he has not shown enough that he's ready to step up. Yes, in 2023 season, he tried, scored a couple of goals, and we expected so much more of Martinelli. Right now, he's not doing well enough for me. We also have the likes of Noni Madueke, who can, do something as well. Oh, hi, James. Welcome to the chat. So you have a quick question from James. James is asking whether I don't right back. I don't. So, first of all, I think this very tall. So with him being very tall, he's not that athletic. He's quite good with the ball at his feet, no doubt. But he played 70 games for Valencia out of 72. And in all those games, like 68 or 69 or thereabout, he was a centre back. He only played as a right back when he was needed, like an auxiliary right back, but he could actually do the job there. So Mba is not 100% fit, as you're saying, then you might have to think of alternatives. Maybe you might have no choice but to just play Mosquera as a right back. But we need Timber to be fit for Liverpool, because I don't want either Calafiori or Luis Kelly to play against Mo Salah. I think I would want Timber on the left in that game and Ben White on the right. So that's just pretty much it for the lineup for Arsenal. For Leeds, Lucas Perry will continue in goal. They had Ilya Melie and Caudalo in the Championship, but they didn't really fancy them in the Championship because they kind of had struggles, were not really good enough and all that. But eventually, it was clear that they needed to buy a new goalkeeper, and that's where Perry came into the picture. In left back, Goodmanson is a very good player after games. He bombs down the left like crazy, which is quite good. And of course, they have Josh Bogu. Bogu scored 6 goals in the Championship, coming into the Premier League. But, I don't really put too much minds on such stuff, because if you remember, Lee 21 assists for Ipswich in the Championship. But when he came to the Premier League, he wasn't anywhere close to that kind of output. But Josh Bogu has some Premier League experience. I think he was with West Ham at some point. And he's quite a decent. Of course, I'm sure you have his work cut when he locks horns against Martinelli and potentially Trossard, that if he's fully fit. In centre back, I would expect Pascal Struijk and Joe Rodon to be in the heart of the defense for Leeds. Those two have played so many games together. Even when Leeds were in the Premier League, I think Struijk and Rodon were there. Or Rodon was in Tottenham, I'm not sure. But in the Championship, they were basically the domineering pairing for Leeds. Lampadu would have been the DM for the 6 for Leeds, but unfortunately, he's still struggling with injury. So Gruev will be would the line in the DM role for Leeds. His work quarter for him against the likes of Odegaard and Declan. Interesting to see how that pans out. Further up the pitch, I would expect Tanaka and Stark to provide some form of support to Gruev. Stark is also a defensive contribution machine. He knows how to make lots of tackles, interceptions, clearances, recoveries. So that will be a very intense battle because I'm sure Stark, Tanaka, and Gruev would not want to allow Arsenal to play their free-flowing football from the middle of the park. We could actually be damaging to them. On the wings for Leeds, you would have the likes of Wilfred Nonto, who is a very pacey winger. I've seen him strut his stuff in the Premier League before he got relegated with Leeds a long time ago, and he has remained with the club. And of course, Daniel James, a revelation in the Championship last season. He was someone that really struggled when he was in the Premier League. I think he played for Manchester United at some point, and he didn't really cut it there. But at least he found a new lease of life when he moved to Leeds. Then leading the line should be Joe Pirou. Pirou has been their main centre forward, but Pirou has loads of competition against him this season. You have the likes of Lucas Mecha, you have the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and of course Noah Okafor that was also signed. But one thing that can help Pirou is that he can also play as an attacking midfielder. So in games when Daniel Fark doesn't want to be too defensive, he can sacrifice potentially at Tanaka or even Stark to accommodate Pirou. So to tactical battles, I would expect, a lot of one-on-one actions in different zones of the pitch. The likes of Monson will really fight hard with Martinelli. I expect Bugu to get cooked. Is just in a world of his own, and when he's really eats left backs for breakfast. Of course, Pirou will have to contend against the likes of Saliba and Gabriel, which might be very challenging for him. Then of course Gyökeres, who had, in all honesty, a terrible game against Manchester United, will be wanting to, do better this time against Leeds. We have the home advantage, and he's the one that, will be wanting to go for that kill this evening to score a goal. And it would be nice, of course, if he has Rodan and Struck to fight against, but I think he should have enough in the tank to see out this. So finally to match predictions, I think Arsenal has more than enough to win Leeds. I'm expecting maybe a 3-0 win. Even the history book tells us that in our head-to-head record, we have been unbeaten in 14 games against Leeds United. And it's also worth noting that we haven't lost a promoted side at home in 42 matches. I think Arsenal is ready to start doing that now. So it's just very important to see how the team is going to progress. It's very important to see how we're going to do enough in the tank to get the point, because as you can see, Chelsea started the game week well, smashing West Ham 5-1. Well, that's a ground that we have smashed them before. So I'm just thinking that it might be cuttings for Graham Potter this season. But that's just it. I just believe that it's going to be an interesting game. And this evening, I'll be back in time for the match reaction. So that's the preview. Drop your predictions in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, I'll see you this evening for the match reaction. Till then,